Congressman, good to have you with us.
John, this is an important topic. I know I've got a little raspy voice this morning, but unless you kick me off, I hope you don't, because I want to talk about Syria. It's concerned me well before the tragic events unfolded in Paris, and I've felt strongly about this. I've told my staff this definitively. I said I want to speak clearly on this issue. I have some strong views on it, and we're just going to work through it. So I'll be happy to go in the direction you want to go.
Congressman, have at it. I mean, this is the thing that is bothering people today. We've got 10 processing centers in Virginia. We found out that one of the Syrian refugees, allegedly, that was supposed to be a legitimate refugee, got to France through a falsified passport. Basically, he was an ISIS terrorist. We now find out that in Honduras, apparently, it looks like 6 or 7 or 8 terrorists have been detained that also had falsified refugee information. People are very concerned about why we're letting these people in. Why don't we just breathe and wait? So have at it.
Well, let's just have a sober assessment, a data-driven, fact-driven assessment of where we are and what we're facing. It is not in dispute. It could not be to any rational person that ISIS, if they could inflict even more pain on the American people and Western civilization generally, they would do that in the most heinous and barbaric manner that we can't even really get our mind around it, how little regard, actually, they have no regard for life. They elevate death over life. So they've demonstrated this. The French president in his speech outlined all the different places where they've launched attacks. So we know with certainty that they've increased in their scope, their reach, and their lethality. Now, we also know that Jay Johnson, who is the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, said this, I'm paraphrasing, he said, we basically won't know much more than we know now about these individuals. Let's keep in mind how difficult it is to get not just a little background check for somebody working at a typical business, but CIA or some sensitive matter. It's difficult to do that in the United States to the extent that we'd like. How in the world can we do this in a war-torn country that's been convulsing for several years? And in my view, there's just no way to delineate and differentiate between those who are true victims of ISIS. In fact, I even have a different plan than bringing them here, even if they were. But on the other side, those who both sympathize or, even worse, those who are true fighters of ISIS. You cannot do that, in my assessment, in an interview process or several interview processes. Now, my heart breaks, John, for what's unfolded over in Syria. It's over 300,000 dead now. We can't really imagine it as we go about our normal lives here in America. And oftentimes I just think, thank God I live in America, literally. And just the peace that we enjoy here is very special. But the people who are being, this great pain is being inflicted upon them, I do not see that the proper solution set is to take those individuals and disperse them around the world, including here in America. I think it's to provide the humanitarian aid they need and physical protection. That's somewhat controversial. Safe zones, I'm a proponent of that because the highest probability of restoring Syria to a strong and safe and non-threatening country is for those Syrians who have been displaced or being run out. They're the very ones who need to stay or stay close by, especially the young men and young women who are willing to fight for their country. I did make one exception in my statement because there's no possible way that a child 12 or under could be a threat to our country. There are so many American couples who want to adopt. I know many who do and just can't, for whatever reason, they can't have children. And I think that would be a beautiful expression of the American heart, and we could do that. I think in a wonderful way to help the true orphan. I'm not saying being accompanied by, an aunt or an uncle. No, I'm talking about a true orphan who would come here and then become part of an American family. The other things on my mind, but I better stop right there and let you ask me a question or something.
Common Sense News Time 8:15. This is the John Fredericks Show across Virginia. We're with Republican Congressman. The orphan strategy makes a lot of sense to people. I don't think anybody would object to that. 12 years old or under. I think what is concerning people is, like you said, why are we taking them in? Number one, when nobody can guarantee these people have been properly vetted. And the other thing is, there's no Syrian government. It's in disarray, so there's no paperwork.
John, I've had the privilege of serving our incredible district, 5 years now, and I do not recall an issue that lit up in me in my core at such a visceral level how strongly I feel about this, and I mean that. I went to dinner the other night up here in Washington. We're still here. Today's the last day of the session, but I went to dinner. He's a good friend. He's a solid conservative, and he said, "Scott, where are you at on this?" And I just ripped on it. I just let it go. And he said, "Wow." He said, I had no idea. I said, "Well, listen, I feel very strongly about this." And I actually, because he had a more open view toward it, and I looked at my good friend and I said, let me share with you something. I mean, this was man to man, eye to eye. I said, if one of those people come over here and they end up killing Americans, I said, I'm going to have a problem with that. And he was a dear friend. It was an awkward moment there for a minute, and I truly don't remember ever saying that to another member. I was saying, just frankly, and I'm not even sure it's a good thing, but I was saying basically, I'm going to have a problem with you. I've never thought that about, budget deal as important as they are, or this other legislation we deal with, but I think that we will absolutely get through this. A deep resolve comes from within the American people when we are tested. World War II and other areas, and indeed Iraq and Afghanistan. The sacrifice that our young people are willing to make. We'll beat these guys. They don't have the moral high ground. We do. But they're going to be around a while. And what's so unfortunate, John, is you think about, I read and reread the transcript. I watched it live and then read the transcript of the president's speech. And then John Brennan, the CIA director, and also the French president's speech. And the president, which is so typical, he ran to somebody who could unite us as a country. He's done everything but that, because he's not said, hey, wait a minute, we've got more than half the governors that are saying they're not taking refugees. We've got, congressional phone lines are being flooded on this issue. Maybe I need to rethink this. And no, he's taken this false high ground of, well, I'm the one who's going to preserve who we are as American people. No, we cannot be who we are. We cannot help others unless we ourselves are strong. And we need to remember that. And so he needs, instead of doing what he's doing, which is threatening to veto anything we pass in the House, we'll pass a good bill today. I'm confident of that on this matter, but he's threatened to it's just, he ought to offer some principled compromise and say, hey, look, you guys want a year, I'll do 6 months, and then maybe no males between, 16 and 60 or something. I don't know what the compromise might be, but at least we'd have something to work with, because right now, once again, we're headed, to a showdown at the OK Corral. And there's not a business that can run with people, just pushing edicts against one another. There's not a church, a synagogue. There's not a marriage that you can just say, well, hey, it's just this way. And if you don't like it, then pound sand. And I believe, we're, by offering our legislation, he may not like it, but at least we're offering something. And he's offered nothing other than, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, notwithstanding the fact that Jay Johnson has said that we don't really know who these people are, essentially.
Well, our own Director of Homeland Security, if you listen to him, would be suggesting we wait. But, of course, when you deal with this president, as you know, it's his way or the highway. But so I've got two questions, and I've got one of our listeners posted this on our Facebook page, Jim Ballou, and I didn't see it till after Tim Kaine was off, but he said, should ask everybody that's in favor of letting these so-called Syrian refugees in, are they willing to take personal responsibility if anything happens? Because I think that's it kind of is the question or the statement that you made to your friend at supper the other night, but it's kind of the same thing. I mean, are you really willing to roll the dice and take personal responsibility if one American is murdered or maimed because one of these came in with...
Well, I think that, I appreciate ideas from the district, and I appreciate him offering that, and I understand the principle behind it, but I'd say this, I wouldn't agree to it, because there are enough families and enough individuals here. Look, we know with certainty that 200 Americans, John, have gone over there and fought for ISIS. I mean, let's process that. And in my view, we need to take whatever legal actions we need to take, pass whatever we need to take, so that when someone does that, it is an immediate revocation of their citizenship. I think it is treason. That word is not used very often.
Treason.
But it is that distinction between what is right and wrong, what is acceptable and what is not. When someone leaves our country and goes and fights for an organization that is doing everything it can to bring down America,
that's treason.
Then you are an enemy of the state, as I see it.
That's treason, right? Plain and simple.
No question. I think and I'm working on that. It's, the challenge that I have, and I think other members do, I was talking to a member last night on the floor, I said, every week something's coming up. I mean, that's part of the challenge, is that, you're trying to advance something and really trying to dig in and work on something in addition to constituent service. And I'm not complaining, John. I'm just saying it's a challenge because of this president.
Okay,
if we had a better president, we wouldn't be dealing with this right now. It is consuming Washington.
So the Republicans are going to pass legislation today to basically put a hold on accepting the Syrian refugees in for a period of time. It's going to get through the House. It's going to get to the Senate. Here's my question. Is it going to just die in the Senate?
Yes, John.
It's going to die.
I do not come on, whether I'm talking to one individual in my office or talking to a town hall or on a radio show or on CNN or something. All I'm going to say is the truth. And the fact is, we're going to pass that bill. It does generate, there is value in it, John, and as much as we will make those who oppose it defend their position, those who support it will advocate for it. And there is a benefit of that because it brings the media attention to the issue. So, but in terms of, will that become law? No, I'm going to tell you it's not, and that's greatly frustrating to me, in dealing with this president. That's why, if we circle back around to this need for some, even on this, John, even on this, and I guarantee there's some good people listening right now say, Scott, don't give up an inch on this thing. Just hunker down, and, if you got to shut the government down, shut it down on this issue. Well, okay, I would like to think that we could get the president to agree to things that he doesn't want to agree to, but that we could finally get to a point of saying, all right, well, under these conditions, we have lowered the risk, to de minimis, to where there's really no risk from what he's gonna do now. And in all of this, John, I don't lose the heart of who we are as an American people. I know there's a tremendous amount of suffering there. To me, it's just a question of what is the best way, if we look down the road, is the best way to get Syria back on its feet, to just to relocate all the people who are trying to, who are in a complete disagreement with Assad and all that. No, it's to keep them close by so they can fight for their country, the young men and indeed the young women, to the extent they're willing to.
But that's it, Congressman. They don't want to fight for their country. They want us to fly them over the United States, and then they want us to send our men and women to go fight for them. To me, it's just it is maddening. Why would we do that?
My resentment actually, I might be parting ways here a little bit. My resentment is not toward the refugees, and I'm not sure it's even worth going down that little rabbit trail there, but my resentment and my objection and my sharp disagreement is with the President of the United States. And though it is such a privilege to be one of 435, and it is, it's also terribly frustrating at times, because I can cast my vote. I can advocate for what I believe in. I can make the case as best as I can. But, the American people have elevated him to office not once but twice. And we're still wrestling with that, and we're going to wrestle with it for about another year.
Well, look, Congressman,
at least we're on the tail end of this thing.
You're going to pass your legislation in the House that makes a lot of sense. And then what I'm saying is it is never even going to get to the Senate for debate because you're not going to find 41 senators to break the cloture rule.
Well,
so you're not even going to debate it. It isn't even going to come up for debate.
Why? Look, I don't serve in the Senate. I know they got different rules, but why they use that mechanism to keep from even debating? I mean, it doesn't mean you support the underlying legislation. Let the debate come to the Senate floor. Let the American people see the different arguments. People will ask occasionally, does anybody watch C-SPAN? I do. I watch it all the time, and I encourage those who are listening today to watch it. I've learned so much because when I get home at night, a lot of times they're replaying hearings I couldn't go to, speeches of John Kerry or something. That's how I watched the president the other day on C-SPAN because there's that ability. But the American people could see on the Senate floor what the issues are, and they could weigh. I'd like to think that thoughtful Democrats would look at this and say, hey, this isn't a partisan issue. This is a let's stay alive issue.
That's my whole thing. This is not a partisan issue, and the Republicans are in control of the Senate. They can stop this rule. This is a man-made rule. This is not in the Constitution. But look, it's not even going to get to the president's desk. But, Congressman, I've only got 2 minutes. I'm just going to ask you point blank. People are concerned about their safety in Virginia. We have 10 of these so-called welcoming centers in Virginia, one of them in Newport News. Here's my question, and we've only got a minute and a half. Are you willing to shut the government down over this issue? Because at the end of the day, that's like all you have.
Well, I'll make that decision. I'm not dodging the question. I'll make that decision if I'm presented with that scenario. It would be, John, to me, it's a probability thing.
Yeah.
What's the probability of getting the right outcome as a result of that? If the probability is very high, I am certainly willing. I will not rule that all out. I won't. But I'd have to have some degree of confidence that it is going to advance it, something that I think would strengthen our country and keep us safer than we are now. So thank you for the opportunity to be on the show. People can go to rigell.house.gov, rigell.house.gov, G-O-V, and I put out a statement yesterday. I'm going to be putting out more about the overall strategic response, the longer-term response to ISIS as well over the next few weeks, and I've encouraged people to read that as well, and let me know what they think about it if I missed something or they have other counsel for me.